Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm here with Colleen,
Hello.
and today we are here with colleague, friend, all of those kinds of things, Tracey Sullivan. Hi, Tracey.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
We're so glad to have you. Tracey's joining us from St. Martin today, and you can actually see a little bit of the reflection in that must be a microwave behind you.
Oh, you're right.
That's
Yes. I
a
tried to
beautiful,
do it the other way so you could see the ocean, but you couldn't see me. Well, maybe
yeah.
you'd rather see the ocean.
Just
Just the silhouette.
No, it's
Yeah.
perfect. We get a little bit of taste of like where you are and what you're looking at. So
Mhm.
it's really beautiful. She is normally in Connecticut. But she's in St. Martin visiting your daughter. So
Mhm.
yeah. It's like, oh, I could be there right now. That would be nice.
Yeah. Mhm.
Anyway, already on a little bit of a tangent. So Tracey is one of the licensed Reiki master teachers with the ICRT. She's then, of course, a Usui Holy Fire 3 Karuna Reiki master teacher. But we are actually here because she's also an expert in human design. So we're going to be talking about human design with her today. She also co-created, I want to make sure I get the name right, Healthcare Reiki class with Pam Allen LeBlanc,
Correct.
and how to bring Reiki to clinical settings because she is a teacher of, I want to make sure I get that right. So, Tracey, why don't you go ahead and say,
So I'm a program coordinator for
oh, that's
nuclear medicine at a community college. So I worked in that field for many years
that's right.
before doing
Yeah.
that.
Sorry, I got that a little incorrect.
No, no,
So,
that's fine.
lots of just amazing things that Tracey brings to the community, whether it's in her Reiki practice, whether it's in her academic practice, all of these kinds of things. But we're really excited to hear about human design because I think many of us have heard that word and want to know more about it. So we're excited to have this conversation today, Tracey. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, so why don't we go ahead and get started in the normal way? Tell us about your story. We'd like to know how you came to Reiki, and then we'll get into the human design conversation as well.
Okay. So my first experience with Reiki was in 2011. And the thing that prompted me to look into Reiki classes and Reiki sessions and that sort of thing was a very traumatic experience that I had. It was with a man that I was involved with. And I won't go into the whole history of my whole history with relationships, but this one was the one that I really thought was, the one that was going to be for the rest of my life. And it ended very dramatically and quickly because um, the gist of it was he's a shaman and worked with a lot of people in this country and Canada and some other places. He went down to Brazil to John of God. I don't know if you've ever heard of John of God. He went down to Brazil to John of God, and he went down for his clients, some clients that couldn't travel. So you can go down for other people and you receive the healing for them. So that's what he did. And when he went down there, something really drastic happened to him. He came back and he was basically a different person. And I picked him up from the airport and I just knew that something was drastically wrong. So he lives in Montana. He went back to Montana and that was the last time I saw him. And that was after 3 years of being like really involved with each other. Even though he lived in Montana, I saw him frequently because he traveled frequently and he would come to Connecticut. So I was heartbroken, of course, and it was a time, it was a heartbreak where I actually felt physically broken. I was feeling like pain in my chest, and I really didn't know how to move forward. So at the time, I was thinking I need to, or I want to help him. And so I Googled healing, and Reiki came up. And I was like, "Oh, I think I've heard of Reiki somewhere." So I Googled Reiki training in Connecticut, and I found this woman, Tanya Tyler, who lives in Mystic, Connecticut. So I took my first Reiki class before I had any experience with Reiki at all. I never received a session. I didn't really know anything about it. And I chose the teacher based on where she lived, Mystic, Connecticut, because I've always liked Mystic. So the way that I found my way into Reiki was kind of a little, I don't know, um, abrupt or different. So I went and I took the class. Her classes were nothing like I teach. They were, it was 4 hours long, and we just talked. We didn't talk about Reiki, maybe a little bit about Reiki, but we talked to each other. And she said, "I think you're ready for your attunement." So I was like, I didn't know any better. I was like, all right. So I sat there in a chair. She gave me my attunement, and I felt like a different person after that. I I don't know what happened. It just shifted things so greatly that I did not any longer feel like I was going to like die from a broken heart. It just shifted it, and I felt peace. And then she said, she gave me a Reiki session and I gave her a Reiki session, and I just cried for like 15 minutes after that. And, then we talked for a few minutes and I left, and that was my Reiki 1 class. So this was great for me in hindsight, because I'm the type of person that needs to know like all the details about everything. I want to know not just like, what Reiki is, but like I get led down all these rabbit holes. So to have learned it this or experienced it, rather, in this way for the first time was really significant in my Reiki path, because I knew from that it didn't matter, no words mattered. It was an energy, or it was a system that could really heal and shift things energetically without you even knowing why. So that's how I initially got into Reiki, and I took my Reiki 2 class 3 weeks later. And then I Googled again, who knows the most about Reiki? And William Rand's name kept coming up. Now, I know that there's other people that know a lot about Reiki too, but for some reason, every time I did this, and I did like a thorough search, it was his name that was being presented to me. So 6 months from my Reiki 2 class, he happened to be teaching in Glens Falls, New York. And I took my first master class 6 months after my Reiki 2 class, still really not knowing that much about Reiki, about what it was. So I took another Reiki 1 and 2 class before I took that master class, and it was with somebody who took it through the ICRT. So I learned like a lot more details about the history of Reiki and Yusui, and a lot of other things that I hadn't learned prior. So I took his class, and the following weekend I taught my first class to one student, and it was one of my coworkers, and that was it. Like, I have been teaching ever since then. And what I've learned through this process of doing it this way is that being in the energy, like the energy, as you both know, the energy is what is teaching us. And when we teach, it's the energy that's teaching through us. So that's something that I learned so profoundly in my initial experience with Reiki. So I'm so grateful for Tanya Tyler, who was my first teacher. It was just so divine that I chose her, or she chose me, or in Reiki kind of set that up, for a person that needs to know all the details to have such a profound experience without knowing any of the details. And then it just naturally led me to the ICRT. And I initially saw like the licensed Reiki Master Teacher program. And I really didn't think that I would like be able to do something like that, because at the time I really didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. And so it stood out to me right away, but it wasn't for years. And just naturally, one year I looked at it and it did feel right. So I applied, and I went through the licensed teacher program, and here I am now still teaching. And the way that human design came into all of this is I was teaching a class, and I think I had like maybe 5 to 7 students in this class. It was in person. And one of the students, and this was back in, it was 7 years ago. So like 2018. And I remember this because I've been in my human design, living my human design for 7 years now, which is significant in human design. Um, and just real briefly, it's significant because they say, according to human design, it takes 7 years to kind of release your not self and start to really live in your design. So this is a significant time period for me. So that was 7 years ago. This woman that was in my class, we were all sitting around eating lunch, and she started talking about human design, and she was getting everybody's charts, looking them up because you can just download them for free. So she downloaded my chart and she said, "Oh, you're a projector." And I didn't know anything about what that was, but I started learning about it, and I learned a whole lot about myself, just reading about human design. And the more I learned about human design, the more I had this like feeling, not like from my mind, but just from my body. I had this knowing that there's a connection between human design and Reiki. There is a distinct connection, and I was trying to like put them together, trying to force them together. In hindsight. And then when I stopped doing that and I just kind of sat still, that's when it started to like really um, become more, the information started coming to me that it's all about the authentic self. The gist of human design is that it's pointing you towards your authentic self. And well, we know with Reiki, and especially Holy Fire Reiki, the authentic self is, that's a huge part of our practice in Holy Fire Reiki. So that's like the my history with how Reiki found me and how that kind of connects to human design. And it keeps getting more integrated, the Reiki and human design for me in my life. I haven't really met um, anyone that has felt the same way about Reiki and human design, but there could be people out there and I just don't know about it.
Yeah. I do know of a couple people, not that I know them well, but they're, social media
Mhm.
follows but let's start with, because not everybody knows what human design is, and kind of
Mhm.
some of the basics. Like, we talk a lot about astrology on this podcast. They, to me, somewhat kind of, I know they're completely different practices, but they kind of remind me of each other, getting to
Mhm.
know the blueprint of yourself. um,
Yeah,
but why don't you explain what human design is to, somebody that has maybe never even heard of the word?
right. Yeah, so human design, there's so much to it and it goes really deep. But the great thing is that you do not have to go really deep to be able to implement this in your life and start to live your design. And yes, astrology is a part of human design. Human design is a synthesis of some different modalities. Um, and astrology being one of them, and being an important part of it, because we use the your birth date and time and place in human design, just like you use your birth date for astrology. And the planets all are affecting the individual at the time of their birth. But to back up just a little bit, human design is really the gist of it is that it's a self-discovery system. It helps you make decisions based on your body's natural intelligence rather than your mind, which is often clouded, by outside conditioning. And this kind of, the first time I heard this, Colleen, I thought of you, because I remember I've been hearing you talking about your inner authority and using your inner authority as opposed to the outer authority. So this is like one of the pillars of human design, is using your body's natural intelligence, which is inner authority, as opposed to anything that's outside of you. Um, so in like Reiki, it's not a system where you have to believe in it, or you have to believe anything about it for it to work. It just kind of offers anybody that's interested a practical method called strategy and authority. So there's a lot of new words that, well, they're not new words, but they're words that are being used according to human design. So their meaning changes a bit. So strategy and authority. In order to talk about strategy, I have to say that human design has 4 types. So there's 4 types of, all human beings fall into one of these 4 types. And the 4 types are generators. You, Robin, and your mom, Colleen, you are generators. And generators are the most prevalent type. They're the life force of the planet. So they're the most prevalent type of human beings. And then we have projectors, which I'm a projector, and projectors are approximately like 20% of the population. And then manifestors are even a smaller part, 9%, and reflectors are 1% of the population. So it's a very small amount of people are reflectors. So it
Tracy,
also, oh yeah,
can we repeat that? So we have generators, projectors, reflectors, and what was the fourth one?
manifestors.
Manifestors. So generators,
Mhm.
projectors, manifestors, and reflectors.
Yes.
Okay. And I think it's helpful too that we have 2 different types here. Colleen and I are generators and you're a projector. The
Yep.
audience knows us pretty well. So feel very comfortable, because I know you looked at our charts. Feel very comfortable using us as examples as you
Okay.
are explaining things, and maybe even if you feel comfortable enough, some differences in like how you're a projector and that kind of thing, where we're using some differences so people can understand it, but we are fine being the examples. So feel
Okay.
comfortable with
Sure.
that.
Okay, so you and Colleen are generators, and what that means is that you have constant life force energy that flows through you. Your energetic beings is what it's referred to in human design. Um, However, you and Colleen are different in the way that you make decisions. So you have what's called sacral authority, and that means as a generator, you're responding to life. So I'll say a few more words about that. As a generator, you're responding to life. So if Colleen asks you, Robin, do you want to do this podcast with me? You wouldn't think about it. You would respond with your body, like your sacral response. is it's like a felt response that you can feel in your body. And sometimes it's expressed as, I don't think so. And often people that are really connected with their sacral response, they do make these noises. Like if it's a yes, or a no, you might find people that are generators making noises like that, especially children, because children are so in their design because they have not had the opportunity yet to experience the not self or to be conditioned by their environment. Um, so you both are responding to life
I
and
have a
you're,
quick question. Colleen was
yeah.
smiling during that part. Do I do that? When you were saying how I respond? She's unmuting.
Especially as a child.
Really? That's
Yeah.
really funny.
Mm.
Okay.
Yes, if you're in touch, Robin, with your sacral response, that's really wonderful, and it is a strategy for you. It's how to stay in the flow of your life. So you cannot know anything else about human design. And if you know that and you're in touch with that response and go with it, it's going to lead you in the direction that is bringing you back to your authentic self, back to who you are. That is just simply having that. And with you, Robin, you have it's strategy and authority are two of the big things in human design. So that's your strategy, is you're responding to life. And for you, Robin, it's also your authority, your inner authority. So it makes it a little bit easier because you have your strategy, you're in touch with that sacral response. And it's also how you're going to make decisions. Once you feel that felt response to anything, and this can be anything for a generator, like you're walking down the street and you see something really beautiful. Well, things look differently to different people. So you look at something and you feel your response to it. So it can be something as simple as that. Does that make sense?
hmm What's
Uh,
interesting about it, Tracy, is that I kind of identify myself as an overthinker. And I'm in this moment, I'm like, oh, okay, is that meaning that I'm a little because of life's conditioning? And does that mean that I'm maybe even a little out of balance of that natural response of my design?
Well, that's what happens to people if you're not in touch with that sacral response, if you're coming too much from the mind has no business being in, according to human design, the mind really doesn't have any business in our decision making for ourselves. The mind is a beautiful gift. It's for other people, though. It's for us to help other people. So if you find that you're using your mind a lot in decision making, you might feel your body doesn't feel, or your sacral response, like your gut feeling of something is, but you do it anyways because your mind is saying, well, why wouldn't I do this? It doesn't make sense that I'm feeling this way, so I'm going to do it. So if you're doing that, then going to that's like your not self, and that's conditioning. It's the mind conditioning your natural way of making a decision, and the mind is, as we all know, very powerful. It's the most powerful thing that we have, so it can overpower our body, the knowledge of our body. um, like our mind wants to be the all-knowing for us and for what's best for us, when really, as I said, it's the thing that's really we shouldn't be using for our own decision making. So in contrast, or not really contrast, but for Colleen, she has emotional authority. So what that means is there's no truth in the now for her, or for you, Colleen. There's no truth in the now. Emotional authority is everything is in a wave. So that's why there's no truth in the now. So you have that same sacral response, Colleen. That's your strategy. So you feel something, and if you do get that, you need to wait to make sure that stays and over the wave. So you don't want to make a decision when you're like really excited about something, and you don't want to make a decision when you're like, oh, I do not think that's a good idea at all. You want to be more in like a neutral space. You're never going to be totally neutral, but if you think about a wave, you don't want to be in the up, you don't want to be in the extreme down. You just want to be as neutral as possible, and that's when you make a decision. So like if you two are working together, what it would be beneficial for both of you to know is that Robin, you as two business partners, you as one of the partners can make a decision quickly in the now, because you have sacral authority, where Colleen, she needs to wait out that emotional authority, and she can't make a decision, or not can't, because people do it all the time. That's not the correct word. It would be better for her, who she is, to wait out that emotional wave. So knowing this about each other can be helpful. So you can just understand that, Colleen might have to wait out that emotional wave before making a decision, even though you're both generators. And to add me into the mix,
What's
did you
so
want to say
interesting
something?
about that, Tracy, what's so interesting about that is I feel like we actually operate opposite. Like Colleen can make a decision pretty quickly. I feel like for myself, I a lot of times have to move through the emotions before I make the decision, because sometimes I can be quick to go no, sometimes I can go too quick to go yeah, and it's not necessarily like the best decision. I get caught up in the excitement, and sometimes I can have a little bit of a temper, and I like have to work through sometimes that to like, okay, wait, work through the temper, let the emotions settle, then go into my response. And I feel like Colleen, and I'm not saying this is right. I'm saying that this is really interesting, because sometimes I feel like Colleen's able to tap into herself a little bit quicker and is able to make that yes or no a little bit quicker. So that's really interesting, though, that that might not be, and maybe that's my perception of you, Colleen, but like my perception of myself of like, wait, I need to sit a moment. So that's really interesting, Tracy, because like that might not be the way that in the authentic aspect of, at least I can't speak for Colleen, but at least for myself.
Yeah, well, you can trust your that that felt response you feel when when life comes to you. You can trust that, because you're energetically made to be able to respond to life and respond as life comes to you. You don't want to like initiate something. That
Yeah.
would be a manifester and just tells people they're going to do something and they do it. If you did something like that, it might not work out that well. But for you being a sacral generator with sacral authority, you can trust your instincts when you're responding to life. You can trust what you feel, your initial feeling. And you might feel like, I don't know. So then you could either have like somebody present it to you again and see, if you had a different response. Um, and for Colleen, it may be a wave that she is going through, because we think about waves in a specific way, but there's things that are happening that we can't really put words to. And as somebody like progresses in their authentic self, to their authentic self, and they're so like closely aligned with who they are, that wave may become a shorter wave. And that connection, if you're like Colleen's very seems to be to me very connected to who she is. So when you're very connected to who you are, you can still experience that wave, and it may not look like the same wave that I experience in my life, because I'm also have emotional authority, and there's no truth in the now for me either. I'm a projector though. So the strange thing for me, and I've always gone against this my whole life, until I learned about human design. A projector, you have to wait to be invited. You have to be not only invited, so you can't tell somebody I'm a projector and I need to be invited, so invite me to something so I can do it. It has to be authentic. So you have to be recognized for something and then invited to it. And once that happens to me, so I just wait, and the right people, knowing now that the right people will come along and invite me into something at the right time. And when that happens, because I have emotional authority, I have to wait that wave and make sure that it's right for me. And an example of that from my own life is I accept, and this is before I knew anything about human design. I was offered a job at, I don't know if I should say the name. I was offered a job at this company, and I was so excited. And I thought, oh, this is because they're clinical applications people. And in my field, they're like really kind of like some of the smarter people and stuff like that, just like a mind thing. And I was like, wow, they're asking me, I was invited to be in this job, and I took it. I took it without waiting out any emotional authority that I didn't really know that I had. And let me tell you, this job, it was a horrible experience. For a year, it was a nightmare for me. It was, I was really bad at it. I thought I was really bad at it. And it made me really uncomfortable, because when you're going into these different clinical settings and teaching people how to operate this new equipment that they just purchased, and it's kind of like, for me, it was a traumatic experience, because they expect you to know everything about like everything that you're presenting. And when I first started, I knew like 25% of the stuff that I should know. It was really bad. I did get really good at that job, but if I had waited out, I look back at that as one of the big experiences in my life that I just kind of jumped into it when I was like really excited about it. If I had waited out that wave, I might have come to the conclusion that I'm not ready for something like that. That I just don't have like enough knowledge for that. And I've had so many experiences in my life where that is the case, where I jumped into something and it didn't go very well. So I won't like tell you all about them all, but I've got like so many that I went against my strategy and my authority. So that's like being a projector. So now, excuse me, I do wait to be invited and recognized. And the thing is, if when you're not going, for me, when I'm not going in alignment with my strategy and authority, I'll feel bitter. So that is like a signpost for a projector that they're not in their strategy and authority. For generators, by the way, it's frustration. So if you're feeling like really frustrated, it's a signpost for you that perhaps you're not in your strategy and authority. Perhaps you're not responding to life. Like, are you initiating things? So just like signposts to kind of make help you to look at yourself and help you to get yourself back on track.
So it sounds like you've got these 4 archetypes, and then you
Mhm.
have kind of subtypes where, like you were saying, like, I'm different than the 2 of you as far as your emotion or your strategy and authority. So are there more than just the 2 that you mentioned, the emotion and the, which one am I?
Yeah, you have sacral authority.
Sacral authority. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, those
So,
subtypes.
yep. So there are.
Sacral, is sacral authority the same as your sacral chakra?
It is. It
Okay.
is for yes. That's correct, but it's different in human design. It is in the same area, and but for human design, it's the life force energy that flows through our bodies, and only generators have that defined. So we have, I don't want to get too off track, but since you asked about the chakras, the in human design we have 9 centers, not 7 centers, and that is part of like the synthesis of human design. The chakras is a part of that. It's part of the synthesis. And there were some mutations, like the heart chakra mutated into the heart slash ego center, and the G center, and then the solar plexus chakra mutated into the splenic and the solar plexus center as well. So they're called centers and not chakras. So
Okay.
just
Mhm.
since you asked about chakras. Um, so yeah, there are different authorities. There's a sacral authority, which you have, Robin. There's emotional authority, which Rob or Colleen and I have. Um, and then there's splenic authority. So that is some that's like your intuition, like your gut feeling. It's different from sacral authority. There's a lot of nuances in these definitions. Um, there is environmental authority where you're responding to your environment. And I know that probably might sound a little interesting. So there are actually 7 different authorities that a person can have, but the most common ones are what we have, sacral authority and emotional authority. Like 50% of the population has emotional authority. And then I think something like 40% approximately have sacral authority. And then it's splenic authority, and then ego authority, and then the environmental authority, where there's not a lot of definition in the person's chart. And definition, when something's defined, that is where you have learned your lessons. And when you're looking at a chart, definition is the things that are colored in, and what's not defined is white. So if people are looking at this and they're looking at their chart, um, that's what definition and non-definition is. So did I get off track there?
No, I actually wanna know a little bit more about that piece. And do you wanna mention what you were saying about, we might have needed to say this more towards the beginning, but what you were saying about the links that you're gonna give us to put in the show notes?
Yeah, so I'm giving you 3 links to some websites, and what people will be able to find is they'll be able to get their free body graph. And there's also lots of free information that you can watch, but I give these links because there's some information out there that is not in alignment with the original teachings by the person that created this, who is Robert Krakauer was his birth name. He's known as Ra Uru now. He's the creator of human design. It came through him, the information about human design. So these websites that I'm providing to you they all go by his teachings, and you can get a lot of information. You can get your design charts, you can download them, because a lot of this makes a lot more sense when you're looking at the chart. And another thing that I'm going to give you to provide for people is a list of definitions about a lot of the terms in human design, and that will also help when you're listening to information about human design, because it's a lot of different stuff that people aren't generally used to. So yeah, those are the things that I'll send to you, so you can provide them to anybody that cares to download them and just kind of use as you're listening.
Fantastic. So that would be, those will be in the show notes for anybody listening if they want to take a look at those.
Yes.
So also, I want to make sure we cover the other two types. You said there's the generators, projectors, manifestors,
Yeah.
and reflectors.
So manifestors are their strategy is to inform before they act, where generators are responding to life. Manifestors don't have to respond to life. They inform, they just have to inform people before they do something. So that can be simply telling, like if I was a manifestor and I told you, Colleen, I'm going to start this, I'm going to go to create this new class, this new Reiki class or something, and then I could just go ahead and do it. So if they don't respond, or if they don't inform before they create something, then they have a signpost also, and that's anger. So manifestors are a very small portion of the whole population, about 9%. And these percentages change. So the way it's kept track of is through the human design websites. And when people put in their human design, they keep track of what they are: manifestors, generators, reflectors, and manifestors. So the percentage kind of changes from time to time, not a whole lot, but they do keep track of it over time. And manifestors are a very small portion of the population. And what makes what you are as far as type, what makes you your type, is the definition in your body graph. So the definition, those centers that I talked about, they're either defined or not defined. And if your sacral is defined, it has color in it, you're a generator. If it's not, then you're either going to be a projector, a manifestor, or a reflector. So with a manifestor, they have a direct connection by connection, that's an energetic connection from one center to the other. So for a manifestor, they don't have their sacral defined, because if they did, they would be a generator. Only generators have a defined sacral life force energy. Manifestors don't have that, but they do have a direct connection to the throat. So the throat chakra, or center in human design, is what is how we manifest. Everything flows energetically from everywhere else in the body to the throat. and the throat is how we put things into action and manifest things in our lives. And everybody has a different way of getting there to the throat. Manifestors have a direct connection from one of the centers that is there has to be a specific connection between a specific center in the throat, and manifestors have that specific connection. And then for reflectors, reflectors have no definition in any of their centers. They're a very small part of the population. And if you think about the fact that it's those open centers where we're here to learn about those, on the other hand, they're areas where we can have so much wisdom through our life process. We can accumulate so much wisdom if we're living in our design. So reflectors are less than 1% of the population, and there is one of the LRMTs that's a reflector, by the way. It's kind of hard to find reflectors. So they're able to, if you want to know like what's going on in a room, like gauge the energy of the room, you can send a reflector in there and they reflect the energy of the room. They're just really naturally good at that. Um, and they have lunar authority. So the rest of us, we operate by solar authority. And it is like every day the sun comes up and goes down. For reflectors, it's lunar authority, so they have to wait on the cycle of the moon. So it's like their decision making is based on that. So they don't make a decision. They should wait like approximately 30 days to make a decision because they have lunar authority. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay. Sometimes when I'm talking about this, I'm like, it makes sense to me, but I'm just not sure. It
Well,
makes
it's,
sense
what
to
it really,
others.
Tracy, what it comes down to too is that it sounds like very much like astrology. It's like a science. I mean, you can
Yes.
have you can know your sun sign, or you can know your sun, your rising, your moon, your big three. But then there are nuances upon nuances upon nuances in
Yes.
everybody's chart. And so, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's, when you're new to this, it all makes sense. But then also to know that, like, oh, okay, this is also a lot of information, but we like it. It's good.
Yeah, yeah, it's a ton of information and it goes deep, really, really, really deep. And it's not just like astrology and uh, what are the other things in the chakra system
Yeah.
that kind of like came into this synthesis. It's also the I Ching. That's the book of changes. So it's the first book that was ever written, and it has like for every circumstance in life, it has the solution to it. So for many years, people consulted the I Ching for when they had a question about something in their life. So like that's part of the synthesis as well. So it synthesizes ancient traditions and science, like modern science. So it's a synthesis of all these things. And it actually came through this man who had gone to live on the island of Ibiza. He wanted some peace and quiet in his life. And so this island of Ibiza, it's off the coast of Spain. Excuse me. He went there in the early 1980s. And of course he wasn't like looking for anything like this. And he's a manifester, by the way. Ra Uru, who I mentioned him before, he's the founder of all this. What happened was one night he was at a dinner with some neighbors, and he came home and he lived in this old ancient castle that was like really ruined except for this one little area, and he lived in this little area, and it was on an old well. It was built on top of an old well, so it had a lot of like really ancient aspects to it. And he came into his house one night, and he had his dog with him. He had a dog, and he said that this lantern was on that had never worked since he lived there, and he lived there for like years, because he moved there in 83, excuse me, and this happened to him in 87. So the lantern was on and it was turning around. And the way he describes it is that he had this encounter with a voice. And it was like an educational encounter with a voice. And it happened, it lasted from January 3rd to for like 8 days in January 1987. The voice told Ra Uru how the universe functions. And he was given the human design system at that time. So, you know, when we talk about the human design system, it's a synthesis of this is what he was given by this voice. And he never really identified, I don't think he even knew like who exactly like the voice was. To me, it was like the universe speaking to him. And he describes it as he stood there and all the water left his body, that he was standing in like a pool of water, and he experienced it as and he talks about it as he was in a lot of pain. And the only time that he was not in pain was when he picked up his pen and he was writing down what the voice told him to write. And what he received was this synthesis of two different aspects of science: ancient systems such as astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the chakra system, and the tree of life in the Kabbalist tradition. So the tree of life, how the energy flows in the body, is a part of this synthesis as well. And then the other aspect of science is more like modern science, like genetics and or DNA, astronomy, and quantum mechanics. Because in quantum mechanics comes in definition, like where if you have if you have a whole channel, and I know that this probably it won't make sense until you're looking at this, but if you have a channel that's defined, the channel is made of two gates. And when they're both defined, it synthesizes into something else. So you still have those two initial gates and the meaning, the keynotes for those, and what those gates mean, that comes from the I Ching. There's
Tracy,
six.
I'm going to share my chart. I have it.
Okay.
It's from I'm sure it's the same site because who I got this from was an LRMT, who I think got it from you. So
Oh,
where to
okay.
download your chart, which was oh my goodness, which I don't know exactly. I know who I got it from was
Karen
Karen.
K.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Karen.
Yeah.
So I got it from the right spot, I'm pretty sure. So just so as you're explaining, I know those that of you that are listening, you'll either have to listen. So let's make sure to try to describe it as much as possible for those that are listening when we're talking about definition.
Okay, so what you see here, the red and the colors don't mean anything. There's no significance to the color. For the centers, these are the centers. There's 9 centers: the head, the ajna, the throat. And right here is this is the heart chakra here. It mutated into the G center, and this is the heart ego center. And the solar plexus mutated into these 2 centers.
These two
But
here, the red and the gold.
this one here, the on the left, as we're looking at it. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't see my point. You can't see my pointer.
No.
So yes, you got it, Robin. That is the splenic center,
Yeah.
and on the other side of the body is the solar plexus center. So the solar plexus chakra mutated into those two.
Gotcha.
And
And
then this,
so I don't is that so the colors don't mean anything. So like when you say definition versus no definitions, these are white and these have a color. That's not what you are talking about.
so that is, oh, it is. I'm just,
Okay.
what I meant is that the color, as far as like red versus brown, they don't mean anything.
Okay.
The fact that you have color in the center means it's defined, and the fact that you don't have color in the center means that it is undefined.
Okay.
However, when you're looking at the lines, so if you point to one of the lines that connects two centers,
Mm-hmm.
so
Let's
look
point
at
to this one.
your, yes. So you have definition. So the reason why those three centers are defined for you is because if you look at the line, the black line that goes from the red square, yep, that.
Okay.
So those are, see there's how there's numbers in each of the centers?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the gates.
Okay.
And if you have both of the gates, the gate in the sacral center, that's your sacral center, that's defined. That's why you are a generator.
Okay.
Then the to the left, the triangle pointing to that, that gate is defined as well. That means that your channel is defined. And when you have a full channel defined, it synthesizes into something else. So there's like an additional meaning to it. And
Okay.
these are the areas that are your gifts in your life. And this is what I have an overview, a short overview of that for you and Colleen. So
Great.
Colleen has 5 of those defined, and you have 2 defined, Robin. And they just speak so much about like your who you are in this lifetime. And it's really amazing. Like I looked at Colleen's, and just what I know about Colleen, it is I'm not as amazed anymore because I've seen it happen so many times. And what it goes back to is that Reiki, and especially I think Holy Fire Reiki, is doing the same thing that following your design does. And this is just coming from me and my experience being very like Reiki is a part of who I am. And just this is becoming a part of who I am as well. um, I see that that's what's happening. And that is kind of where the class came from. The healthcare Reiki class kind of originated from that belief and that knowing. Um, but uh, that, do you want
Well, yeah, why don't we go in because like you were saying, one of the things that we talk about so much with Reiki is it is shifting the paradigm of this idea of like, okay, what do I need to heal? We do need to release that, but how can I empower my gifts and talents? And those are proverbial, like what you came into this lifetime with. So I can see how those that why they integrate so well, like how
Mhm.
Reiki and human design integrates so well, because like you said, it's doing the same thing. It just, it's like, oh, now you have a name for this. Now you have a name for this. So of course
Yeah,
we're going to be curious about what our gifts and talents are.
Well, I
absolutely.
think my question around that would be, with the human design system, is it more informative where Reiki is the energy that engages with the information? Or does human design have like an energy system that it's working with also to assist in um, being in your authentic self?
So I think that I understand what you're asking. I'm just gonna spit that back out at you.
Yeah.
Um, so does it have an energy? Like, does the human design
Yeah.
system, like Reiki is a system and it has the energy that animates it. Are
Yes.
you asking if human design, the system, has an energy that animates it?
Yes.
So I would say, in my experience, I haven't heard anybody say that it does. And in my experience, I would say that no, it's kind of like an explanation of how life force energy flows through us. And it's based on the neutrino field. So neutrinos are the byproduct of radioactive decay. And our sun, the reason we can see our sun is because it's constantly going through like the process of radioactive decay. It gives off light, and it also gives off neutrinos. Neutrinos flow through everything. Um, and it's seems like you could look at it as prana, as life force energy. So those neutrinos that are flowing from our planets, our stars, and mostly 70% from our sun, are constantly bombarding us, everything, all the time. And that's the importance, kind of getting a little off track, but that's the importance of knowing your birth date, time, and place, because that stream of neutrinos is what imprints us. And that is where that definition comes from. So when you look at your chart and you see that definition, that was that moment you were born, the neutrinos flowed through, and the planets are involved. And this is another reason why astrology, astronomy comes into play here, is because as these neutrinos flow through planets, they flow through everything. And this is a scientific fact. It was after Ra got this information from the voice that it was discovered that neutrinos actually have a very, very minute amount of mass. So they cannot be considered light because of that. So they have mass and they travel a bit slower than the speed of light. So it was recognized that they do have mass and they can carry information. So when the neutrino field is flowing through to you at the time of your birth, it flows through the planets as well. And the planets, the quality of planets, is the same as what you know in astrology. You know what the planets are, what significance the planets hold for us. So it's the same as in astrology. So as this field is flowing through the planets, they pick up information from that and imprint you with that. So what happens is the neutrinos, it's kind of like if you hit a car, a red car hits a white car, you're going to get some red on the white and some white on the red. So that's basically what's happening. And you're imprinted with this at the time of birth. And that gives you that, your energetic makeup. So that is a long answer to your question, Colleen, but that's why I say that it's describing life force energy and how it flows through us. So it doesn't feel like it has like its own energy. What it feels like to me is that Reiki and human design are existing, but together, and they're the same, but in different domains. And what I mean by that is everything, exists in one container, but we can look at it from different viewpoints. Like you can change the frequency to time and time to frequency. An example from nuclear medicine, my profession, we can actually inject somebody with a radioactive tracer. So one domain is radioactivity. And we can change that as the person is under the camera. We can change that radioactivity to the domain of frequency. So we can tell if a person is breathing too fast or breathing abnormally based on the radioactivity that's in their body. I hope I explained that in a way that it kind of makes sense.
So I think, I think what I think I'm hearing you say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the system of human design and knowing what your design is helps you to understand your authentic self
Mhm,
before the layers are placed on us based on this world, the things that have happened to us in this world, this experience, even the things like where you're born, your generation, like all of these kinds of things that are a part of the culturally created self
mhm.
are out are outside of that blueprint of what we were born as and the authentic self. And and on its own, being able to understand that can help you move, if we're talking about human design, can help you move back to that as much as possible. It gives you strategy. It helps you understand like your authority. It helps you, like you were saying with Colleen and myself and you and how we respond to situations. And if we can learn from the system of human design, we can try as, we can use it to help us get back to who we were meant to be. And if we are in that place of authentic self, then we can live a more fulfilled life, or a life of balance or wellness, or however we describe that.
Yes, that was very well stated, Robin. Yeah, totally.
And
Uh,
how I could see Reiki accelerating that is that Reiki helps us to release those layers. So the energy comes in and helps us to release those layers, and it also helps us to get to our authentic self, and the energy assists us in doing that. And so
mhm.
I could see how they work so well together, because Reiki is something that helps us do that. And it would maybe even, I don't want to say, well, and maybe it does, accelerates that understanding, accelerates that process of helping us to get to that authentic self that we can understand through the system of human design.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Robin. And that is the whole thing of it for me is that it does accelerate the process of moving into your authentic self. And it almost is for example, like if when we're talking about our authority, um your authority is your personal like decision making compass, and that was your sacral authority is what you have, and emotional authority is what Colleen has. So it's your decision making compass, and it's based on your body's wisdom, not your mind. um, so Reiki soothes our bodies by calming the nervous system, right? We know that that's true. We know that that happens when we receive Reiki. So it enhances our ability to feel our strategy and authority, especially, especially when we're stressed, when clarity is harder to access. So in this way, and when we think about when you think about your definition and your centers, like the 9 centers, um, where we're defined is definitely like where your where things are consistent for you, where information is reliable, and the undefined centers is where you're open to outside influences from other people or whatever. So this awareness of knowing that knowing where you're vulnerable can help you discern what's truly yours and where you could be conditioned, and where you're most likely to be conditioned. So with Reiki, it helps to clear that energetic conditioning that we all have. It doesn't matter where we're defined, or how many centers we have defined. We're all conditioned and, by our environment, by other people. So Reiki, as far as like our definition, will help to release that mental and those emotional patterns that we hold in these undefined centers. So that's what human design is the knowledge of human design is telling us, that in these open centers, we hold these different patterns that we have been conditioned to believe certain things about ourselves that aren't true. So Reiki can help us to release these emotional patterns and support that deconditioning, and then the allowing for the authentic expression of who we truly are. So yeah, so and you can just, in my working with this, with every aspect of human design that I have experienced, there was that counterpart of Reiki, that in the way that it can help, um, you know, with our not self, with conditioning, and it has helped me. I guess that's the biggest thing, is that it has really helped me in my life to understand myself, and to understand the things that are like situations that aren't good for me, and just to make better decisions for myself, because that, I guess, is one of the biggest things that human design teaches us, is decision making. And with Reiki, especially Holy Fire Reiki and the authentic self, when we um, become more our authentic self, that just naturally we start to make different decisions, simply from because we're making them from our inner authority and our connection to that part of us that is divine. And it kind of like we go back to our original being, like the Hanshazation, and oh, was I supposed to say that on the air?
It's all right.
It happens.
It kind of reminds me of that too, like the original human being is perfect. And that's what this is like pointing towards. And I feel like Reiki is the energy that is really helping at least me, and I'm starting to see that people that I've worked with it is really helping them also. And I started to tell you before that I don't want to.
You're good.
Okay. um, So the reason why this class that Pam and I have been working on came through is because in the human design system, there's three centers of awareness, and it's where we experience fear, different levels of fear. And a large part of this energy in healthcare Reiki is about releasing fear. It's about releasing fear so we're able to connect with our authentic self, and be able to heal in a deeper way. And that's on the physical, mental, and emotional level. So it's based on the 9 centers. The classes based on the 9 centers, and so much of it, like the symbols, especially the one of them, is all about releasing fear. So that's how they kind of been just kind of coalescing together, synthesizing together in my experience. And, of course, in Pam's now too.
That's the healthcare Reiki, the course that you have created.
Yeah, that Pam and I are, yes, for sure. Um,
And just so everybody knows, we will have them back on the podcast for that topic and talking about healthcare Reiki and the course that they've developed and how to find out more about that. And although you can on Tracey's website and Pam's website too.
yeah,
Um, I'm really interested too, we went going back to Robin and mine for me, I actually do perceive that very accurately. Um, it may seem as if I'm quick to make a decision because I've been on the wave before I do it. So that's the part I think is a good way to describe it for me to understand it. That I always think, oh, there's so much of it behind the scenes for me before I'm
Yes.
certain, or not certain, but before I'm like, okay, here it is. And some of the places where it's really beneficial with the two styles is because I can be on that wave and Robin can go, well, let's switch waves or stop right here. She has that really clear kind of decision making. And also because I'm so ADD, I have a lot of waves going at once. And so that's where it can be really beneficial that she has that kind of automatic. Um, but going back to that, not to make us just like, let's talk about me, although that's always the best fun. Um,
Yeah.
we love that. But are there other qualities? Because I think what I've heard from what you've said is one of its primary functions is to help you understand how you come to decision making. And I thought it was so interesting the way you've described yourself as a projector, waiting for the invitation, because I've always wondered about that with people who wait for the invitation. I always think, well, just include yourself.
Oh, it's good to,
Yeah,
oh,
really
I don't want to
interesting.
interrupt you. Yeah, it is really good to know. I mean, not only know about yourself, anybody can work together.
Yeah,
Anybody can work together. And people use this in business. There's a whole BG5, I think it's called, where this is implemented in businesses because the understanding is that anybody can work together as long as if you know somebody's human design and how they respond and
yeah,
how they make decisions, then you can know you don't judge them and you don't like expect them to do something differently. So I've heard before that, projectors shouldn't work together, or generators shouldn't work together, but really, people that are the same type really know each other. I mean, energetically, they can relate. So, yeah, there's going to be some things like you and Robin, just wait for, and Colleen, you know yourself very well. The way you describe that is, yeah, that I had a feeling that that is what you were doing, because you just are so in touch, with yourself and with the universe, it seems, that you can do that. And Robin, I haven't like had a lot of experience with you, but I wasn't surprised at all to learn that you had that sacral authority because you do seem very like somebody that can make just like a decision right in the moment. So you kind of start to get a feel for people just, I don't know, by being around them even or even just listening to them. And I've listened to you. Well, I've listened to both of you, your podcast. I listen to it all the time when I traveled. I don't get the opportunity as much anymore, but you were like the number one podcast that I listened to when I was traveling. So I got to know you both, from that perspective. And I guess I'm just realizing this now that when I looked at your designs, I wasn't really surprised at what I saw, just based on my experience, um, kind of getting to know you through the podcast, I guess.
yeah. I
Um,
think she's also uh, more quickly able to respond or react. Instinctively is what I would think. She has
with
a
its positives and negatives.
no, I see
No,
it and sometimes wow the way, because for a while I'm still on the wave.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
it's funny because
and so I admire the ability to react.
we do label that within our dynamic as, me bringing Colleen back to center when she goes on those different waves. I didn't
Right.
really realize that.
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard you say that, like on your podcast. Okay, let's bring you back, or whatever you say.
And what's interesting is that from the opposite, it's actually Colleen compliments me because sometimes I can get so, like in that centered place that I need that additional open perspective. And that's helpful from the other point of view.
Yeah, well, you worked very well as a team. You've really, and I understand, that, you're mother-daughter, but that doesn't always like mean that you're going to work well together. Um,
We do work really well together.
We do.
yeah, and it's another example of how Reiki brings us to our design. Like they're the same thing. Like you're honoring each other's authority before you realize that you were, and helping each other, um, by you're allowing each other to respond to life, and then honoring how that person is responding to life. So it's an amazing thing, I think, that that Reiki does, is to, if you didn't know Reiki at all and you were working on your human design and following, and human design is a lot of information, but it's really not about the information. Just like Reiki, there's a lot of information, but it's not at all about the information. It's about the putting it into practice. And with Reiki, it's actually giving ourselves and others Reiki. With human design, it's living your design. And it's really easy words to read. Respond to life, wait for the invitation. But it's just not always easy to put into practice. And once you start putting into practice, it may take a long time, 7 years, they say, to decondition yourself. Where with Reiki, there's no timestamp on that. So that's why I think it's so um, important, or powerful, to um, understand that Reiki can accelerate the process of bringing us back to the authentic self that we're looking at when we look at our design chart or our body graph. Um, so,
Kind of like therapy. I feel like when Reiki complements therapy, it can accelerate the work that you do in therapy many times.
right.
Helps on that energetic level to release some of those blocks that you might be working through to get back to your balance, your place of wellness, your authentic self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This is just
Yeah,
kind of like
that's
a
what it, yeah.
blueprint.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Like Reiki is the actual energy that can help you get to it, and then the human design can help you understand it.
Yeah, it is. That's what it's been for me. And, like I said, it's just progressed into like other things in my life, such as this class that we were talking about, and the way that I do my sessions, and just the way that I think. It has really changed a lot of things for me and helped me. It helped me in a lot of different ways to just understand myself.
Yeah.
Where,
Explains so much, that deep aspects of ourself that was like, oh, that's what that is.
hmm, yeah, and sometimes it's just the understanding that can just like kind of make you feel such a relief, and not feel like you're not like normal or whatever, because you realize that this is like the science of differentiation is what it is referred to as. And just like the cells in our body, like a blood cell has like the genetic code, but it differentiates to be just a blood cell. It just like bone, like all these cells in our body, they have like the code, but they differentiate into being what they are. The same thing can be on a larger level said about human beings. We all have the genetic code within us, but we all are differentiated based on that time of birth and that stream of neutrinos that comes in and imprints us. And we'll never be the same as another person. We're not meant to be.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's so much, like, especially with younger people trying to be like somebody they think is like somebody they want to be like, to have like information, I think, like this for especially younger people to realize that, you know, we're meant to be different. And I think could be very valuable. Um, but first you have to, I guess, get these younger people to like actually listen to it.
Well,
Like,
I was thinking it would be helpful as a parent and
yes.
even and relationships too with another person. But yeah,
Hmm.
really helpful as a parent to know what their profile is.
Yeah. So, and their children. So you can start to treat or interact with the children according to who they are, like energetically. And it can actually like make a big difference in, you know, as the child grows up, they don't have to get rid of all of that like not self stuff because they never had to like experience the not self because their parents understood their design and they could and treated them in that way or interacted with them in a way that is correct for them. So it's a big deal. It's a big thing. And Ra, the founder of this, um, he did say that it's more for children because it takes so long for like it's for everybody, but it's really significant for parents and children and young children because it takes so long once you're an adult to kind of unwind all of that. But that's another place where I see Reiki coming in and really helping us to unwind that in a profound way.
I would also think it would be really beneficial for reflectors, specifically, also manifestors, as a Reiki practitioner. And I'm almost wondering if there's a correlation with people we think of as star seeds, for instance, if there might be a pretty big correlation with them being in the reflector or manifestor, probably more reflector category. Um, and and just the understanding of, I haven't had the words for it where we talk about if the majority of people are generators, the people who are not that, feeling comfortable in their own human design, their own body, that yes, instead of always trying to be what the mainstream is or the main population percentages, what that is, um, could be really helpful for them to have an understanding of why they're not in that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the not self, um, I think as a Reiki practitioner, with a lot of people who I see that are actually sometimes more in their authentic self, but feel like they should be trying to be more in the category of the higher pop percentages of the population, that this could be really beneficial for them to know about themselves.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely for, especially for people that are like non-energy types. So only generators are the energy types who have that constant life force energy. So the rest of us, you know, tend to think that we should be like that, you
Yeah.
know, and just keep going. Like I've had a hard time with that because there's actually 4 energy centers in the body, but the most profound one is that life force energy. It's the sacral center. So mine's not defined, but the other 3 that are in the body are defined for me. So I have like this energy flowing through me, but it's only for specific things. It's
Mm.
not like flowing through me all the time. So I have a hard time. I'm always putting like extra thing, like doing something. And what I started to notice is that when I stopped doing things, like I wasn't unwinding. I was still going, like my energy was still going. So I had to like really adjust that and to be able to understand that I'm not a generator. I almost said a reflector, but I'm not, I'm a projector. So even though I do have a lot of energy, it is for specific things. Um, and reflectors, yes, there's so few of them and they're so different. The thing is, the manifestors, there's not a lot of them either. As the time goes on, manifestors were the primary, like that, those were kind of like, if you're thinking about a corporation, they would be like the CEO. They were the ones that were in charge. So what's happening is it's starting to move in another direction. And so it's more like eventually it'll be like those reflectors that will be more the people that are in those positions, but it's going to look a lot different. And the funny thing is that kind of coincides with the fact that like for the past 400 years, we've been the it's called an incarnation cross, and it's been the cross of planning, for the world. It's the world and earth incarnation cross, and it's the cross of planning. So for the past 400 years, we've been in that, and that's like all these ways of like governments and planning to make sure that everybody is okay, that there's an office for this and an office for that. So it's a lot of planning has been in place for the past 400 years, and that's why we have all these um, different governmental offices and all the different things that we have that support a society. And I know that's different in different countries, but we're moving into the cross of the phoenix. And instead of being so we were supposed to have learned lessons from being in this cross of planning for 400 years on how to take care of each other. So now that we move into this class of the Phoenix, it is more of an individual, um, uh, more of an individualistic society where these governmental institutions are going to fall. And if we have learned our lessons, then we will be able to take care of each other. So, I mean, that's kind of outside of the realm of this here, but it is a part of human
Makes
design.
sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what's happening right now. Um, and the other thing that's happening now that's huge in human design is in 2027, we have been mutating as beings forever, since beings came into started walking the earth. We've been mutating into when we got our neocortex, we became thinking beings. And now the mutation that has been coming about for many years, um, since the 1700s, I believe, is something that children that are born in 2020, starting like in February of 2027, are going to be born like genetically different. Like that's the completion of a mutation that people are already being born, that are the people that are moving into that mutation. And the mutation will be fully in effect and females that are generators who give birth to children after February of 2027 will give birth to these new beings, these new they won't be human beings anymore. It'll be they call it something else in human design. I mean, they'll look like human beings, of course, but they won't be the same. They won't have that competitiveness, and they'll be looked at as something that there might be something wrong with them, but where actually they're going to be very much more advanced than we are. And Colleen, we kind of talked about this a little bit when you told me about the those tapes, about the autism tapes. Is that
The
what it was?
telepathy tapes.
Telepathy tapes, and it was about people that have autism, right?
Mhm.
So it sounds like these children that will be born at this time will be the way that their gifts come when they're together. And that's going to be a natural way of being for them. Like they'll be able to communicate with each other, just like those telepathy tapes.
It makes
So,
sense because it would be also, if you think about how the generations, like Gen Alpha stops, right? It might even be like right about now. So we're moving into the next generation. And
mhm.
millennials are Gen Alpha parents. And Gen Z is probably just starting to get old enough to become parents, at least like the older wave of them will have, I don't know what the next generation will be called. I doubt it's Gen Beta or whatever, but the next generation will be the children of the Gen Z kids. There'll be crossover because the younger millennials and the older Gen Z will be, just old enough around there to be the major wave of the parents that of the children that are being born. And Gen Z is so different
Yeah,
in a good way that it makes sense that the way that they would parent would be different than millennials, which we parent differently, but Gen Z is even more kind of, in that category of being so different that they would parent differently as well.
yeah. So it's pretty
Yeah.
I think
interesting,
it
isn't it?
it makes so much sense for something I've seen from a long time ago, that some of the children and the people that are, born with different consciousness, and maybe a lot of them are reflectors, um, that this body model does not have, or this body model has to evolve in order to hold this next level of consciousness that
Hmm.
is going to be born. And that is, so for the work that I've been doing is working with the descendants out ahead of us about that, with
Oh,
some of
wow.
the people that um, I feel are those people who have been born already with this next level of consciousness, and
Mhm.
what needs to happen to our bodies for this next wave coming in, that our bodies can actually hold that kind of consciousness.
Hmm. Well, there is an actual genetic mutation that they say is happening
Yeah,
in the body. So
interesting.
that is, I mean, you may have been thinking of it in a slightly different way, but the the reality of it could be that it is an actual, well, I guess you were thinking about it as the body. So yeah, it is a genetic mutation that's happening. And that is going to allow the beings to be different from like what we are.
Well, to have the capacity
Hmm.
to be in the level of consciousness that they actually will have,
Hmm.
that we actually have to shift, that is, it makes so much sense. And, I don't always have the language for it that, doesn't sound totally out there. Um, well, the descendants have said that, they are working with us to help us understand this evolution of
Yeah.
consciousness and how our physical bodies have to change for that.
Hmm.
So saying it just in a different way, but I would
Well, it's the
say
science catching up with
this
the energetic aspects that come through, or defining it from a scientific viewpoint. I don't want to say science catching up, but we see that with Reiki, right? We have these experiences we know, and then people study it, and it's like the science catches up with it. So
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like that is a part of what is taking place.
Well, and what I see with that is that's what I mean by a lot of the people already born into that. Um, Now it's a struggle because of the percentages of generators and them trying to fit in as a generator rather than the generators also understanding or allowing for their consciousness, their perceptions, like for us to meet them where they are instead of trying to get them to meet us where we are. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's, what I see in speaking of the parenting is that in those cases, one of the reasons Reiki is so beneficial is because it can help the parent get to where the child is rather than only trying to get the child to that kind of, will be like everybody else generator population.
Yeah.
So, and I love our generator population. I am one. On a personal level, it also explains to me why, like, I'm able to perceive that in other through the work. And I've always known that I'm still in that kind of um, percentage of population that are in the same. Like I didn't have a name for it that I'm in a generator, but I've always known that I was in like more of the mass consciousness and born into that.
A very unique part of that mass, though. I mean, you have a lot of definition in you, Colleen, that is um, like the channel of rhythm and flow. So, and that's like your gift through that is harmonizing with life's timing and bringing others into a balanced rhythm. I just brought up this information that I had um, written down. So you have, and another one that's big is this other channel, Genius to Freak, which which sounds kind of funny. Inner knowing that breaks through collective patterns. So all of these like main things that you have, the power of self, raw vital energy to act powerfully when aligned with your true self, the rhythm and flow, harmonizing with life's timing, intimacy and emotional clarity. And that's the ability to initiate intimacy and help others open up emotionally. And then the other one is commitment to experience. So the gift and so it's perseverance and the love of embodied living. So I just want to like read this too. I just kind of integrated all of those and like the main name of the integration is the living myth. You are a visionary embodied being who awakens others through your presence. Your journey is about trusting your inner voice, honoring your unique rhythm, showing up authentically, and forming deep connections that nourish transformation, both for yourself and others. So you don't follow a linear path, you live cyclically, moving with the tide of experience, embodying truth, love, and perseverance in the dance between individuality and unity. So it's just to me
Wow.
is, I mean, it's
Nailed
kind
it.
of general, but these are the 5 things that are defined, channels that are defined in you. And when I look at that, it just is so, you're living that out in such a unique way. It's not, and I know you from listening to your podcast and sessions that we've had together, and it's clear to me that, you are living this out. Um, and then Robin, I can mention yours if you'd like. So your channels that are defined, um, so the they together speak to deeply protective, purpose-driven, and tenacious. It's a tenacious archetype. So this is your, I call it a human design hero's journey. Um, so the hero's journey, yours, the kind of the name of it is the guardian of purpose and life. So it's the call to adventure, the courage to confront the unknown and exact meaning from adversary. So you're born with a deep sense that life must mean something. That experience itself is not enough without purpose. This inner drive awakens you early, calling you to fight for what truly matters. You're not afraid of challenge. In fact, struggle becomes your teacher, but you must learn to choose the battles that feed your soul. And then the other one is the custodian of life. In the crucible of this journey, your instinct to care is tested. You are designed to nurture and protect, especially the vulnerable. Your love isn't soft or sentimental, it's fierce, earthly, and primal. You sense what others need to survive and thrive, and you naturally move toward life in all its fragile beauty. So your gift, deep intuition for what sustains life and the strength to nourish it. Um, and then for you, you are the wise warrior caretaker, forged in the fires of meaning and nurtured in the garden of responsibility. And your power lies in your unwavering devotion to life itself. Not the easy parts, but the raw, sacred, messy beauty of it all. And I don't know why, but that makes me like almost brings tears to my eyes. Your journey teaches others that struggle isn't something to avoid, it's how we find our path. That care is not weakness, it's strength and must in its most enduring form. And that a meaningful life is one where we both fight and nourish with equal depth. So those are your defined channels, and those would be what are your gifts in this life, when you're living your design or when you're practicing Reiki.
Interesting. Wow.
So, and I'll send you the rest of it so you can
Okay.
just read it. Um,
Wow. So Tracy, how can people learn more about these things? Like, I know we'll include the links, but having my own report, there's no way that I can extrapolate all of what you just said from my report. So
right.
sessions from others, things like that. Like how do we dive deeper into this if we're interested in it?
Yeah, so the first thing and the best thing that you could do is get your chart, and you can get that for free. And you do need to know your exact time of birth. And I know that people that don't know their exact time of birth, you could get that from a Vedic astrologer. They're able to, I can't remember what it's called, but they're able to actually track back your time of birth. So you do need that information for your chart. And there's a lot of information for free that you can read about. You could go to YouTube and you can see a lot of videos that talk about what it's like to be a projector, a reflector, a manifestor, or a generator. Then the next thing that I would suggest for people to do is get a reading from a professional analyst. Um, and you can find on the links, you can find professional analysts, and they'll be able to give you a reading, and a reading is usually like an hour to an hour and a half. I think my first reading was like 2 hours that I had. And they give you some basic information. So the types of stuff that we talked about, that's the type of information that they would look at specifically for the person. You can't really get too specific when you're giving a general
Yeah.
talk about it in like a setting like this. But they'll look at your chart and give you specific information. You can also um, you can get one for free on these websites, but if you want something more in depth, you can pay to have like a more in-depth one if you didn't want to schedule a reading with somebody. But it's good. A reading is good because you can ask questions. And then, most importantly, start experimenting with your design. Starting, start if you're a generator. Um, Read about first what the sacral response is and start to get in touch with your sacral response. Like, have people ask you questions and really feel like in your body, like, what does your body feel like when you hear that question? And that is a way, if you're not in touch with your sacral response, to get in touch with your sacral response. And one way that I learned, I didn't do this on purpose, but I went against my design many times. Even after I learned what it was, it took me, and I still do. I mean, I still do. Um, but going against your design, you can see. I mean, that's almost like, for some of us, even more profound learning experience. And that's another thing that varies in human design too. Some people naturally learn by making mistakes, and I'm one of those people. That is a
Thanks.
Well, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, Robin, you have your profile, you have a 6/4 profile, I think, and profile is something that's a little bit deeper, but the 6 that's what that's all about. You are learning from like a 3 and a 6. I'm a 3/6 profile, and the 3 and the 6 are learning through making mistakes. So
I'm a
if
6/2.
oh, you're a 6/2.
Mhm.
So you have that within your profile as well. So you could look at your mistakes that you make as not mistakes at all, and don't even, refer to them as mistakes, but refer to them as your learning, part of your life learning. And because they're not mistakes, there's no mistakes. There's no mistakes for a 3 or a 6. So remember that.
I would agree with that. I think of them that way.
Yes, so that is, and I can't remember what Colleen's profile is, but I know, I don't think there's a 3 or 6 in your profile. So, just to get back to, if you do those are good places to start. If you want to start learning more about your human design, just start experimenting, with what your design is. Be kind to yourself, because it's not always, easy. So just be kind and have a lot of compassion for yourself. Um, Send Reiki to your design, to yourself, and that will help you to clear those blocks from your open areas and help you gain more clarity on your design. And the proper way for you, according to human design, on how you should interact with life in general. So I think if you start with those things, that is a really great place to start. And I can tell you that that will lead you to wherever you need to go with this. Um, you'll come across different things, and something's going to stand out to you. You're going to respond to something, and you'll go with that, and that it just keeps bringing you to where like you need to be. So so yeah, that's where I would start. That's my recommendation on where to start with human design. And again, just be patient and kind to yourself, because it's a whole lot of information. Don't feel like you have to know it all, because I don't know if anybody does or can.
Well, it's part of the journey, right?
Yes, it's part of
Yeah,
the journey.
yeah, and it's part of the
It's a beautiful journey. I mean, it really
it
is, to
is.
be able to experience yourself in a very loving, compassionate way. And that's the whole thing about human design, is like the last thing Ross said, um, in the conclusion he came to, is that most people don't love themselves after doing many, many sessions with people. So his whole thing was that this can bring you back to that love for yourself. And that is the main goal, is self-love. Because once we achieve that, we, when we love ourselves, we're loving everything around us as well. So yeah, in that way, it's a very spiritual modality as well.
Tracy, how do people find you? Let's go ahead and take a moment to your website and socials or anything
Um,
like that.
So I'm not really on social media, but my website is reiki-integration.com. And that's where I actually have a human design with Tracey, but you can find that from my main website, which is Tracey at reiki-integration.com. So
Well,
Reiki Integration is the name of my business.
well, this has just been so fascinating. Thank you for coming on and
Oh,
talking about this, and in a way that us beginners can, wrap our head around all of it. So we really
Yeah, well, I
appreciate that.
hope that I hope it made sense
Yeah,
for
that's
everybody.
yeah, definitely.
Good,
totally
good,
does. And the
good.
value of it, like
Yeah.
why they're, for me, it moves into the curiosity now.
Mhm.
Like, and I
Hmm.
love curiosity. So it's like, oh, now I have something else I get to be curious about.
Yeah.
And I get to talk about me. So
Yes. Well, you are the most important person.
exactly, that's it. So probably one of my challenges is, focusing on me. So
Yeah, well, I think that you have every right to do so,
I
Colleen.
agree. I'm going to do that today.
Mhm. Good.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, thank you.
fantastic. And of course, as always, Colleen and I can be found at reikilifestyle.com, and our social Instagram is what we're focusing mostly on right now, is Reiki Lifestyle Official. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you,
Thank you,
Tracy.
everyone.
And we'll have to have you back and Pam back when we're ready to talk about healthcare Reiki, because that's another
Yes.
topic we're really excited to hear about.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
It was really an
Thank you
honor.
for being here.
really
Yeah.
fun. So, all
Oh,
right.
thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody. Bye now.
Bye.